Hi and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to talk about this book, The Fortune Man by Nadifa Mohamed. This is of course a shortlister for this year's Booker Prize, and in an earlier video I said that I thought that this book would actually win the Booker Prize. The announcement of this year's Booker Prize winner is actually tomorrow, so I thought I'd have to speed up and read this book now. This wasn't actually my first choice of reading, because I read No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, and then I read Bewilderment by Richard Powers, and I thought if I read 3 out of 6 books, the chances were quite good for me to hit the right one. I was actually thinking about reading Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead because I thought the plot seemed quite cool, but then I realized after googling some that I would have read 3 out of 3 American authors for the Booker Prize. And that felt kind of wrong. And I understand that that has been quite a controversy, that so many Americans now are shortlisted and longlisted for the prize. But I'll get more into that when the winner is announced, I think. So it really wasn't the plan to read this book unless it won, but I'm very glad I did. And I was sort of fearing that it would be this kind of courtroom drama, because that was the impression I got, but it really wasn't. It's written by Nadifa Mohamed, that is a Somali-British author, and the first Somali-British author that has been nominated for a Booker Prize. She debuted as a novelist in 2010, and this is her 3rd novel. The book is set in 1952 in Cardiff, in an area called Tiger Bay. This is the area that is filled with docks, and many poor immigrants live here. After what I could gather, a Jewish shop owner called Lily Volpet is killed in this area, and the local community is looking for who has done this crime. And they start saying that it must be a Somali who has done this crime, and then the local community looks for the least likable Somali they could find. The person they blame is called Mahmoud Matten, and he comes from what was then called Somaliland. And he worked in the Navy as a sailor merchant, and he is now living in Cardiff with his white wife and their 3 kids. The relationship to his wife and the kids doesn't work that well, but he loves his wife and his kids, and he is now accused of killing the shop owner. So all this happens quite early in the book, and the rest of the book is told through mainly 2 perspectives, the one of Mahmoud and the remains of the family of the murdered shopkeeper. It actually tackles a lot and talks about how things have become the way they are and what is happening in the moment, and jumping between being Jews under Nazi regime or living at that time and being an immigrant from Somaliland to Britain. The actual trial of Mahmoud is only a small part towards the end of the novel, and it's not perceived as a courtroom drama at all, this novel. Instead of going through the plot in bigger detail, I thought I would talk about what I enjoyed and disliked about the book now. This is one of the books that I actually read in quite a small amount of time, and I just finished it up because I wanted to make a review. And so I usually take some days to reflect on the books before I make a review, so I hope this review isn't incomplete. There's probably 1,000 things I forget to say and regret after making this video, but we'll just see. We're jumping straight in either way. So I'm here from editing, of course, and that's because I forgot something, and that is that this book is based on real events. So Mahmoud Matten was a real person in 1952 that was accused of this crime. I thought that was worth mentioning. Let's get back to the video. My first reflection on this book this year is that this is by far the most engaging book I read of the Booker Prize books this year. And that was a huge surprise to me. As I said earlier, I thought it would be a lot of courtroom drama surrounding this book, but it's not. And this book has so much to it, and I'll get into that now. First, the book is amazing at establishing a scene. So when they talk about New York and skyscrapers, I feel like I'm immediately in New York. And when describing how growing up in Africa has been and the choices he makes, I could at once just put myself in his mind or look at what he is looking at. And that's one thing I really have been missing from the other books. I find it hard to describe, but the book describes it so well. I felt at once that I was a part of the story instead of just sitting reading a book. The book jumps both in time and place, and it's not all based in Cardiff. You really get an insight into how Mahmoud has had his upbringing in Africa and how he decided going to the Navy and traveling abroad to visit other places than he was used to. This is also done in an atmospheric way that makes me feel like I'm a part of his journey as well. When going on these travels with Mahmoud, you really develop sympathy for him and what he has been through. And this helps the story a lot because he is put through so much. I think the really great thing about this book is how humanizing it is, because you form a relationship to the main character who is wrongfully accused of a murder, which is a unbearable state to be in. But you also discover the systemic racism. One example of the institutionalized racism is that Somali people get 3/4 of the salary that British people do in the Navy, but it doesn't seem to affect him in any way because he is generally a very positive person, it seems. Maybe not always positive, but at least very optimistic, because he sort of always think that things are going to sort themselves out. Also, when he is wrongfully accused of murdering someone, he thinks that the British system is going to release him because he has done nothing wrong. And of course, Britain is a society that's well developed, he thinks, and so he is going to be released soon, he thinks. And things like that are holding him up for quite a while in this book. And there's one quote from the book that I really like. "Now, though praying is a serious business, he wants God on his side, so weigh faith in his favor. At some point he thinks his luck has soured. From birth to 20 years of age, everything has gone his way with little effort on his part. But since then, in these last 4 years, bad luck has surrounded him like a fog." So this is just an example of how positive he has looked upon his own life, even though I have thought throughout the book that things have been tough also earlier. But it is this positive attitude that really gets me as a reader when he derails into hopelessness. Because at some point he realizes that things aren't really that great and they do not seem to go his way. When I'm so attached to him as a reader, this is really painful to read, because you really grow to care for him throughout the book, I think. A thing that I struggled with when reading this book is that the chapter names and a lot of words in the book are not English. I think it's Somali language, and for me as a reader that was kind of frustrating, because I sat with my mobile phone and tried googling some of them or all of them in the start, and then I gave up. And some word I understand are specific to a thing that maybe does not have a English word for it, but some words I think also had quite simple English words for it. So I don't know why this is the way it is, but I spent quite some time googling things in the start and then just stopped. And all the chapter names are words that I don't understand as well. One of the big topics of the book is, of course, racism, and the last few years has shown us that racism is, of course, living today, unfortunately. The book does a really good job at portraying racism in some ways that I know of and some ways that I did not know of, so in that way it was very useful. And it does portray racism in every aspect of living, from the language barrier when Mahmoud is struggling to understand the lawyer's talk and he does not really want to speak up, but he does sometimes. The racism also manifests in the way people look at him and are being physical around him. And he noticed, even though people might not know that they are behaving in the way they are. And also you get a feeling when reading this book that the Somali people are generally not welcome where they are. They are not supposed to mingle with anyone, at least. And of course, with Mahmoud being married to a white woman, this becomes very clear. If I should sum it up, I thought it was a sad, enraging, and very humanizing story. I liked the book a lot. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is my highest rating for a Booker Prize book this year. and I just felt a connection to the story, to the plot, to the characters, and it was really easy reading it for long stretches of time, which I'm not so good at generally. But I'm very glad I read this book, and now if one of the books that I've read is going to win the Booker Prize, I hope it's this one. Last time I guessed that this would win the prize, and now I sort of hope so. Unless there's a better book on the list that I haven't read. You can comment below if you want to. Probably going to wait until tomorrow and the announcement before I buy a new Booker Prize book. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!